Okay, this is going to be my labor and delivery video. It is absolutely crazy. So, January 7th at 4:30 in the morning, I wake up because my contractions that I've been having that night are getting stronger and to the point where I can't sleep through them anymore. And at that point, they're about 10 minutes, 8 minutes apart. They keep fluctuating between 10 and 8 minutes. And they're getting stronger and I can't go back to sleep, and they're getting kind of closer together, so when they get to 7 minutes apart, I wake up my husband and, tell him what's going on and say that maybe he's not going to work the next day because this was a Friday morning. Well, yeah, he may not be going to work that day because it was Friday morning. And we kept timing them on my iPhone app, and they kept getting closer together. So they were 7 minutes apart, they were 6 minutes apart, when they were 5 minutes apart, they really weren't as painful as I was expecting them to be, so I didn't know if this was the real deal or if it was just going to be like all the other times that I had contractions and they go away. So I got in the bathtub to see if the warm water would relax and they would go away, or if they kept getting stronger then we would go to the hospital. So I'm in the bathtub and my husband's in the bathroom with me, and they're pretty intense. They're like 5 minutes apart, but they're still not as painful as I was expecting, so I was still kind of confused about what was going on. So then I decided to get in the shower in case we have to go to the hospital. So I'm in the shower and they're going to be 4 minutes apart. And my husband's like, maybe we should go to the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, we were supposed to go to the hospital when they were 7 minutes apart, but that happened a couple times, so anyway, they're 4 minutes apart now, and they last for a minute, and they're pretty strong, but still bearable. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to the hospital. And then I'm trying to get dressed in the bedroom, and it took me a really long time because the contractions were now 3 minutes apart and lasting a minute. So I had 2 minutes to get dressed in between contractions. I would throw myself on the bed when I have a contraction and just wait it out, and then get dressed a little bit more and then have another contraction. So then I go to the bathroom, yell at my husband to get ready because he's fooling around with the dehumidifier machine. And we put our shoes on and we leave, and it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. And we get to the hospital at on the way there, we're hitting morning traffic, and the contractions are getting really strong, like 2.5 minutes apart, which is getting scary. And we're driving in the emergency lane because there's lots of traffic jams, everyone trying to get into the city for work. So we're driving in the emergency lane with the flashers on. It was just like in the movies. It was crazy, and I'm like moaning and making all sorts of noise with the contractions. Anyway, we get to the hospital about 8, and we go up to the delivery room and they say, yeah, we're pretty full, but we're getting a room ready, so just walk the hallway for a little bit. So I'm walking the hallway for about 5 minutes, and I have to stop and hold on to the wall and do all that. And they finally put us back in there and hook me up to the CTG machine to monitor her heart rate. And the contractions are 2 minutes apart at this point and getting really intense, and I'm moaning and breathing through them as best I can. And then I feel this downward pressure, and it feels like I have to pee. So I tell the midwife that I need to go to the bathroom right now or else I'm going to pee my pants, basically. So she unhooks me from the machine, walks me to the bathroom, I pee, then I come out, I'm washing my hands, and I'm having a really strong contraction, and she's like, just breathe through it, we'll check you when we get back to the room. So we get back to the room, she checks me, and she says, you're 8 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, what? I could not believe that. It was the biggest shock of my life, but I was so happy because that meant it was almost over, and I knew then why I was in so much pain, because that's the transition period, the most painful. So I'm like, okay, that's good, I can do this. But then I realized, I'm too far along, this is happening too quickly, I'm not going to get an epidural, so I guess I'm doing this naturally. That sank in. So my husband goes to get the bag, the bags, that we brought, and he comes back with the wrong bag, the bag with like baby stuff in it and other stuff, and I wanted my labor bag, and I was like, that's the wrong bag. And he said, she told me to get the one with the baby clothes in it. And then I freaked out. I'm like, wow, this is happening like really quickly. So I send him back out to the car to get the other bag, and the midwife's out of the room. So I'm in the room on my own. I'm like yelling and screaming through the, I wouldn't say yelling and screaming. I was being pretty vocal through the contractions, just like that kind of painful sound. And I feel this downward pressure every time I have a contraction. And there I'm alone for like 5 minutes. And then during one contraction there was lots of downward pressure and I'm screaming, and all of a sudden there's a pop and a gush and my water breaks all over the bed. It felt like someone had dumped a 5-gallon bucket of warm water all over the bed, all over my legs. It was crazy, and I could not say any words at this point because I was in a lot of pain. So I was just screaming louder and louder until the midwife came back in the room, which she did, and I'm like, my water broke, and she saw that. And then my husband comes back in the room and I'm like, my water broke. I'm like freaking out, and she's like, okay, the doctor's on her way, and I feel like my body is like pushing her out, and I'm not pushing myself, but I feel like my body is pushing her, and all I could say was like, it's pushing, like my body's pushing. And she's like, don't push because, you know, you're not all the way dilated yet. And I was like, I'm not pushing, it's my body's pushing. So that was interesting. And then the doctor gets there, puts on her apron, and I am pushing. This is like within 5 minutes basically. And so I'm pushing, and that feels better. It feels good to push whilst having a contraction. Now I cannot push without the contraction. That's really hard. I don't know who can do that, but so I'm pushing with the contractions, and my husband's like, I see her head, and she's got, you know, I see hair and everything, and I'm like, oh, that gave me some motivation. So then I'm pushing, and about 10 minutes into pushing, they realized her head, she was crowning. You could see about this much of her head, but she was stuck there, and her heart rate went down a little bit, so they wanted to get her out quickly, and they were telling me, push as hard as you can, and I was like pushing as hard as I could. My life was like flashing before my eyes. I thought something was going to happen to my baby, so I was pushing really hard. And then she gives me an episiotomy, which was the best thing she could do, because as soon as she did that, I didn't feel it, by the way, I was in another world. As soon as she did that, her head could come out, and so that worked. So and then her shoulder, I felt her shoulders come out, and then they put her on my chest, and she was born at 9:37. So we were at the hospital for about 1 hour and 7 minutes. And they were like, wow, we're really impressed that you waited that long to come to the hospital. And I was really impressed with myself. And yeah, I was really proud of myself for doing it au naturel. I don't think I could have done it if it wasn't that quick. The entire labor was 5 hours, start to finish. So I was really lucky, and I was really lucky I could do it naturally. And recovery has been great. I haven't had a whole lot of problems. So, yeah, she was 8 pounds, 9 ounces, 21 inches long, and the first things that I was saying when they put her on me is, she's so big, how did she fit? Because I could not believe, like, she was in my belly, she just looked so big. But she's gorgeous, and I'll show you her in another video, and I'll talk more about my recovery in that. Thanks, bye.